Something is wrong in Nigeria. Not just economically wrong, not just politically wrong. Something is deeply, spiritually, and generationally wrong. And the reason most Nigerians cannot explain what they are feeling is because what is happening to this nation goes far deeper than bad governance. It goes deeper than corruption. It goes deeper than ethnicity or religion. What you are witnessing today, the bloodshed, the poverty, the chaos, is not an accident. It is a consequence. And today we are going to talk about what most people are afraid to say out loud. Stay with me. Part 1: The Sins of Our Fathers. Let me take you back, not too far, just a few decades. Nigeria had a dream once. After independence in 1960, this nation stood at a crossroads of greatness. We had the oil, we had the land, we had the people, brilliant, resilient, creative people. Africa looked at Nigeria and called her the giant, but giants can fall. And ours fell not because of an external enemy, but because of an internal betrayal. Somewhere along the line, our parents' generation, and I say this not to dishonor them, but to speak the truth, made a terrible choice. Election after election, they sold their votes. They accepted bags of rice. They took 500 naira. They allowed themselves to be bussed to polling stations to tick boxes for men who had already decided that the people did not matter. They were told, "This man is our son, vote for him." They were told, "This is our party, loyalty." First, they were told, "Just collect and manage," and they did, year after year, decade after decade. They sold the future, our future, for things that could not last a week. Now, I need you to understand something important. When a generation repeatedly chooses leaders based on tribe, on bribes, on fear, they are not just making a political mistake. They are writing a contract, a generational contract, one that says, we do not value our own dignity, we do not believe our children deserve better, and that contract has a price. We, the children, the youth, the generation that came after, we are paying that price today. The unemployment, the collapsed hospitals, the schools without roofs, the roads that swallow lives, the naira that bleeds daily. This is not fate. This is inheritance, the bitter harvest of seeds sown by hands that should have known better. Part 2: Blood on the altar. But let me go deeper now, because what I am about to say, many of you already feel it. Many of you have whispered it, but nobody wants to say it plainly. The killings in Nigeria are not random. The herdsmen attacks, the banditry, the kidnappings, the mysterious explosions, the ritualistic murders, they are not simply the product of poverty or unemployment, though those are real factors. There is a darker layer underneath. In Nigeria, in many parts of West Africa, there is a long and documented tradition of politicians and powerful men visiting shrines, making covenants, and sealing agreements with spiritual forces in exchange for power, protection, and wealth. This is not fiction. This is not superstition dismissed by the educated. This is reality, acknowledged even in court cases, confessions, and investigative journalism across this nation. These men go in the darkness. They make promises, and those promises require payment. The currency of those covenants is blood, innocent blood. Think about it. Why do the killings never seem to stop regardless of which administration is in power? Why does government after government budget billions for security, yet the massacres continue? Why are the perpetrators almost never caught, almost never prosecuted? Because some of the people in power need it to continue. Not all of them, but enough of them. There are communities in the Middle Belt, in the North, in the South, where people have been slaughtered like animals, and the government's response was silence, or worse, a press release. Mothers have buried their children without justice. Fathers have returned to ash where their homes once stood. And in Abuja, men in Agbadis attended banquets the same night. I am not here to tell you whom to hate. I am here to tell you, do not be naive. When a system consistently protects killers and abandons victims, it is not incompetence. It is design. Some of these covenants are territorial. Some are timed to political seasons. You will notice, if you pay attention, That violence in Nigeria tends to spike before and after elections. Coincidence? Perhaps, but a pattern repeated enough times is no longer a coincidence, it is a signature. The land of Nigeria is crying, the soil is soaked with the blood of innocents who deserve to live full lives, and that blood in both spiritual and moral terms is calling for an answer. Part 3: The Weight of Innocent Blood. There is something that every culture, every religion, every civilization across human history agrees on. Innocent blood demands justice. In the Bible, God said to Cain after he killed Abel, "What have you done?" "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." In African tradition, the elders say, "Innocent blood does not return without vengeance." This is not poetry. This is a law written into the foundation of the universe, and Nigeria, this beautiful, agonized nation, is under the weight of an enormous amount of unanswered blood. The victims of Benue, the victims of Plateau, the victims of Zamfara, the victims of Ochurch, the students of Chibok who have never fully come home, the unnamed thousands in mass graves across the north, their cries have not gone anywhere. And until this nation, its leaders, its people, its institutions takes responsibility and seeks genuine cleansing, the wound will not close. It will only widen. A nation cannot continue to build on a foundation of unacknowledged blood and expect stability. It cannot plant prosperity in soil that has been desecrated by betrayal and sacrifice. Something must break, and then something must be rebuilt. Part for the path forward. National cleansing and rebirth. So what do we do? Do we despair? Do we leave? Do we accept this as our lot? No, but we must be honest about what is required. And what is required is not just a new election or a new policy. What is required is a national reckoning. First, a reckoning with our political choices. The next time a politician offers you money for your vote, understand that you are not collecting a gift. You are signing away your child's future. You are adding your name to that generational contract of suffering. Break it. The cycle ends when individuals decide it ends, one vote, one conscience at a time. Second, a demand for genuine accountability. Nigeria needs independent commissions with real power to investigate the nexus between political elites and organized violence. Other nations have done this. South Africa had its Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Rwanda rebuilt from genocide through radical acknowledgement and justice. Nigeria must find its own version of this path. But it must be walked. Third, spiritual and communal healing. Whether you are Christian, Muslim, or hold to African traditional belief, every genuine faith tradition carries within it a mechanism for healing, cleansing, and restoration. Communities that have suffered must be allowed to grieve publicly, to speak their pain, to demand acknowledgement from the state. This is not weakness. This is the only foundation on which real peace is built. Fourth, the youth must lead differently. Nigeria's population is one of the youngest on earth. More than 60% of this nation is under the age of 30. That is not a burden, that is an army of possibility. But it must be an army that refuses the old ways, refuse to be thugs for politicians, refuse to take money to disrupt elections, refuse to be silent when injustice is committed in your community. Your voice on the street, online, in the ballot box is the most powerful weapon this nation has. The EndSARS movement showed the world that Nigerian youth can move as one, that energy must be sustained, redirected, and institutionalized. The final call: Nigeria is not a lost cause. Let me say that again, Nigeria is not a lost cause. But Nigeria is a nation at a crossroads, and the road we take from here will be determined not by the politicians in power, but by ordinary Nigerians, men and women who decide that enough is enough. The blood that has been shed cannot be unspilled, but it can be honored by building the kind of Nigeria those victims never got to see. We owe that to the mother in Benue who buried 3 children in 1 week. We owe it to the student who should have graduated but was kidnapped instead. We owe it to the farmer whose fields were burned, whose story was never told on national television. and we owe it to ourselves to refuse to pass this same broken inheritance to the generation after us. The chain of suffering was forged over decades. It will not be broken in a day, but it will be broken, and it starts with you. Awake, informed, and refusing to be silent. Nigeria will be great again, not by accident, not by prayer alone, but by the deliberate, courageous choices of people who decided that their children deserved better than what they received. That decision starts today.